Welcome to That's What She Said, presented by CMU Health, where we spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to That's What She Said. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the shares, all the likes, all the, words of encouragement that I receive on an email, on Facebook message. It's so wonderful to know that we're reaching you. And there are so many ways that you can reach us. If you ever have a question or feel inspired enough that you want to be able to get a hold of us, the best way to do that is through Facebook, either WSGW's Facebook page or the That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara's Facebook page. I have emails and phone numbers and all those things that are out there in the universe, so just give it a Google. But tuning in is sometimes and randomly, and I'm just going to say it, I'm driving in the car and kind of forget my own show's on at that moment. I'm like, oh, wait, that's me, which is such a really cool feeling. But the even better feeling is receiving the information from you. This episode really touched my heart, or, I had to share this episode with a friend. But the ways that you can listen are, if you are watching us, you are most likely on social media, and it is Thursday at 1:30. Thank you for tuning in that capacity. WSGW on the radio waves at 100.5 and 790, Saturday morning at 8 a.m. or Sunday evening at 6 in the evening. I call that the reset episode, right? So you're able to launch your week with just this new fresh state of mind. And then 24/7 anywhere that you listen to your podcasts, we're there. That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara. So as you all know, I jot notes down, and I carry a journal. I carry sticky notes. I don't know if I've ever said that. Anywhere that I land, I have sticky notes at my desk, in my car, in my book bag, and I just write things down and put them everywhere. And then sometimes they fall off, and sometimes I refine them. And one that I refound recently, it said something very, I don't know, maybe I wrote 2 weeks ago or more, and it said something about, don't be mad at the path you're on. And who knows why Christiana wrote that? I don't know. But then I refound it. It was, on the floor of the back seat of my car. I must have fell off of something. I said, don't be mad at the path you're on. And so I stuck it right there in the car. And I thought to myself as I was driving, oh, look at this construction. Yes, of course, it's Michigan in the middle of winter. Of course, we have construction. Don't be mad at the path you're on. And I kind of just took that to heart and was like, this is the path I need to go on to get from A to B, from B to C. That the path may get complicated and may get rough. We may have a detour. There might be a pothole in the road that we just cannot avoid. But why are we mad at the path if it's still taking us where we need to go? So that was my epic thought as I'm on the road, hitting a pothole, watching the guy next to me honk his horn, trying to, decompress myself in this traffic jam. Don't be mad at the path, because it's still leading us to the journey that we're on and the destination we desire. So I am going to leave you with that. So as you move from this That's What She Said day to the next, just reflect about the path that you're on and where it's taking you. So my path has led me across this woman who's sitting across from me, and she's so wonderful in so many ways. And every conversation I have with her, I learn more, not only about her and her story, but her perspective and how I can kind of see through her lens at times to grow myself. So it was an absolute no-brainer to bring her on to That's What She Said, to share her wisdom with you. We have Karlie Robinson. Hi, Karlie.
Hi, how you doing, Christina?
I'm good. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. I know you are, and I say this, you're a busy woman. You're doing all the things, plus everybody else's things. And I really want to say thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Well, I'm glad to be here. And I one of my jokes is that my calendar is like a parking lot. There's always space available. It might just not be close to where you want to be. And so as long as we can get stuff in the schedule, I can be pretty much anywhere.
I like it. I'm going to steal that. Okay. Well, I'm excited to share your story. But But first, I'd like you to introduce yourself and how the community might know you.
So the community in Saginaw and actually larger parts of like the state of Michigan might know me as a small business consultant. So in my day job, I work for the Michigan Small Business Development Center at Saginaw Valley State University. And so my job is to help folks who have a business idea or are working through something with an existing business elevate and get to the next level, whatever that looks like. So my job is to help people get good information so they can make good decisions about what they want to do in their business.
That's a big deal job.
It can be, because there's a lot of, it's not just dreams or, sometimes people are like, oh, it's business. It's like, but for so many people, it's personal. And sometimes we have to work through teasing apart what makes sense financially versus what your body, your heart, your mind, your soul is set on. And there's a lot of people who tell me like, this business is my baby. And it's like, but it's also a possession. And so you could work your whole life to get your dream house. And then we have some horrific weather event and you've got a tree in your living room. And whether it was your dream house or not, we have to make a decision about what we're going to do to make sure that we have a comfortable, functional life. And if that business is becoming problematic, we can fix it. We can jettison it. There's a lot of things we can do. But no matter what, you're probably going to be okay. We just need to make some good decisions and figure out where we're going from here.
So advising others on their business and their dreams, was this your dream job?
No, I was one of those kids who had no idea what she wanted to be when she grew up. And every time somebody would ask, I think when I was really little, probably like single digits years old, I wanted to be a truck driver. And then somewhere that faded away. And then I got into that same place that a lot of folks are of it's too much to decide. Like how there's too many years ahead. How can I pick just one thing? And now, like, even as a mom, my kids are in their early 20s. And I kind of remind them sometimes, I'm like, look, if you lived your entire life over again, Mr. 21, you will only be 42. And then you'll still have a whole other lifetime beyond that. So like, if you probably need to pick something because you probably maybe don't want to live with your mom forever. But if it's not working out, you can change it. And so I kind of ended up on this path to business. My husband came home from work one day and he's like, hey, I registered a new .com. And I'm like, what the hell are we going to do with that?
When was that?
This was right after my first son was born. So my son Clayton was born in July of 2003. And we started a business called OnDisk in August of 2003.
OnDisk.
Yeah, we published for independent software developers, mostly Linux and free and open source. So yeah, there's like regular computer nerds. And then if you go about 600 yards into the weeds, then you get to the free and open source guys. That's where we planted our flag. And the fun part is that Quinn, my second, he came along 14 months after Clayton. And so this harebrained idea that my husband came home with, I'm like, look, there's this business gets $300. When that money is gone, we're done. I made $100,000 that year before Quinn was born.
Wow.
Yeah. So essentially my family lived on the same $300 over and over and over again for like 12 years. So yeah, there was a few things I learned. I was also a community college dropout at that point.
Okay, so hang on.
Yeah.
So husband comes home from work and was like, I started a new .com. We're going to launch this website. We're going to launch this business. And you're like, oh, but we're having a baby.
Yeah.
And you dropped out of college at the same time.
Well, no, I had already dropped out of college. It was just kind of one of those things that I realized, because again, I think I told you my mom passed away just before my senior year of high school started. So that period of like after high school, I knew I should be doing something, but I didn't know what that was going to be. There was all this other kind of grief, and grief plus teenager brain is hard stuff. So nobody was really surprised that I was taking classes and changing my major every semester and kind of maybe not going to class when I should have. I ended up with a 1.47 GPA out of that experience when I decided I'm probably wasting a lot of time and money, and I got a job. And eventually met the husband. We eventually had the babies. And, so at this point, I've been married for a few years. Now we've got this brand new kid, and we're doing what now with this job or this website?
Is that what do you feel like when he came home and said, we're going to start this business. This is the website. Did you feel like, okay, let's do this, I'm in? Or was there some type of resentment of like,
my husband will tell you my exact words were, what the hell are we going to do with that? Because again, I'm at that, like, I'd had this baby for less than a month. I'm at the, I call it like like most people have had some experience babysitting, but eventually somebody comes and takes the child back and you go back to your carefree life. And those first few weeks of parenting as a new mom were kind of hairy.
Yeah.
They were. And so I didn't really feel like I didn't have anything under control. And now we're adding another thing. Are you insane, sir? Was probably my first, we're what now? Like we're doing what now? But yeah, so we put those guardrails on it. Like, this is like, again, I had some like previous side hustle kind of things, and I had $300 in a business account. And I was like, yeah, when that money is gone, we're done. And we made it. I actually started going to like small business consulting. What the heck do I know? My mom was a chef. My dad was a carpenter. What do we know of banking and profit and loss forms and, that kind of stuff? And so I would go and I would ask a question, and I called my counselors my answers of stupid questions. By 07 though, I felt like I'd had I have a handle on some of this stuff. And the guys I was working with at the time were volunteers at an organization called SCORE. And so I was like, I felt like I needed to give back. And so I asked, kind of like kicking snow, like, oh, can I join your club? And because we were running an e-commerce, and some of my fellow volunteers were guys who like retired from Kodak in 1987, because this was back in New York State when we still lived there. Answering their computery website, online questions, like, oh, here, go talk to Karlie. And so I've actually been doing this small business consulting stuff for over 18 years. And finally, like, after I got my bachelor's degree in 2017, I ended up at Oakland County Economic Development. They're like, that thing you've been doing for free for 12 years, we'll pay you. And there's benefits. And I was like, oh no, I'll be there on Monday.
So let's take this a few steps back. You built something from nothing, which is the definition of an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Right. You and your husband were like, we're going to do this thing kind of until the money's gone. And this might be fun. It might work. It might not. That's a big leap of faith. And like you said, you were feeling like, I'm the babysitter, but nobody's coming to take this baby.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Being a new mom, a new business owner, what was it at that moment that was like, okay, or maybe that pivoting moment where it was like, okay, we're going to be okay. This is going to be okay.
Yeah. And it was a slow kind of build, because my husband still had his day job for a while. And it was the kind of thing where, even though I could get to the point where I could predict that the money would be coming in, I had kind of come up with like my marketing, your marketing kind of has to roll. And so kind of once you get into that groove with it, then like, oh, I can make consistent money with this. I know who I'm talking to. I know what information they're looking for. I can send out a newsletter, and that relates to sales. And so if we're behind the 8 ball and need to make a mortgage payment or something, I can keep this money going for us. And so, there was a while there where I was just kind of like, oh no, this is what I do. I am not a stay-at-home mom with a side gig. I am I own this company, and my kids just every day is take your kid to work day.
That's a way to look at it.
But it got to the point where we were shipping about 20,000 CDs and DVDs out of our house every year. And so it was even just little things like the cadence of one parent would start dinner and then the other would finish it, because we had to run to the post office and drop off our orders so that they could go out in the mail. But you just kind of get into a rhythm, and it just becomes normal.
It takes a lot of teamwork. And it sounds like with your business launching and getting off on its feet, you looked and searched for a village. Like you said, you had this panel of people and you're asking questions of like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And these are very analytical things. Like, this is the question, this is the answer, and this is the other answer that might be an option if option 1 doesn't work. So that's very rigid and formatted. But at the same time, you're launching this new life as a mom. Did you build a village around your mom questions?
Not necessarily, because kind of at that point there was just a lot of almost, I don't want to use the term bad blood, but I don't have any better adjectives at this point. My family situation and that kind of close knit piece that most people covet did not exist for me. So, even having like one of my cousins was going to school like less than a mile from me, and my aunt would come visit him, and no matter how many times it's like, oh, you could come over, they never did. And so it was kind of isolating, but I was able to kind of redirect that into like, but I don't necessarily do this for them. I do this for this little squad of people that I married and gave birth to, and this is our family unit. And if those other folks want to come in, that's great, but I don't. And like I had to learn pretty quickly that part of people pleasing, and for my own mental health, that it was not necessarily in my best interest to, I don't want to say beg, but again, adjectives are having a day.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to beg people to be my family. It's like, if you've got your own stuff, then go rock it. But I'm over here, I'm going to do my stuff. And also just know that I'm not necessarily beholden to anybody. And again, it's not like we had great friends in Rochester. I don't know if you can see, I have a little scar here from thyroid surgery. And one of my son's preschool classmates, his grandmother watched the boys the whole day and took them overnight so that I could do my medical stuff that I needed to do. So we did have those support people. They just weren't related.
It was unexpected, like an unexpected village that you built of your own.
Yeah. And it's really about, and even like I had a group of friends in Flint after I moved here. And one of the gals, the conversations she said was like, well, her weird is, matches our weird. And I've kind of expanded that to like, yeah, as long as like your version of weird is compatible with my version of weird, we can be friends.
We're good.
Yeah. And so like, this doesn't have to be like a requirement. It has to be if you're going the same direction as I am and you want to travel with me for a while, let's do that. If this no longer serves me, no longer serves you, so like, that's okay. We're all in this ebb and flow. That's life. And some years you have crap and some years you've got great. And sometimes you have a combination of the two. And yeah, you just got to roll through.
Do you think that finding your own people early on, when you're like, hey, my family's just not really stepping up right now, I need to create my own panel to ask questions to.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a self-awareness of, I need to be my own life raft? Like I need to self-preserve my mindset because I have this child.
Yeah. And it's this combination of like, very few people are self-made. And even when we talk about like On Disc, no, my husband helped me. I found people within that free and open source community who could help me. Like, but there's also these pieces where I'm like, oh, I can't just be a taker. I also have to give. And
why do you think that?
Well, I just think that it's very much about, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to think about here is that when I don't want to always be a taker, but I need to give back. And I think that's where good, strong relationships are made, is when it's mutual, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, is that giving, taking.
It has to balance out.
Yes. The Buddhists have a term called the middle way. And it's the idea that like not enough salt will kill you. Too much salt will kill you. Most medications are poisonous, but the right amount will, cure your headache and you'll have a great day.
What is this called?
The Buddhists call it the middle way.
The middle way.
So finding the right amount for me, finding the right amount for you, finding the right, like, I don't need excess to be happy. I also don't necessarily need like too little. I probably am not thriving. Too much is probably not helping me. So when I have what I need, then I'm good. Then I'm good to go.
I've never heard of this. Okay. We only have a couple minutes left to this half, but the Buddhists say this. This is a method. And so Buddhism.
Yeah. So I come from a family where my mom went to Catholic Mass every day. I married a guy who was the first Buddhist monk in the U.S. military's chaplain corps. So yeah, there's been a lot of Buddhist stuff in my life, and considering I've also been married to this guy since 1999. So there's been a few conversations over the years.
I would say so. I think you have a fascinating story, and I want to kind of circle back just for this last portion of, you said in the beginning, you work for Michigan SBDC.
Yep.
And they help small businesses grow and thrive, and that you're helping advise them. If we have a listener that's like, hey, this is me, I want to start a business, or this is me with my business, how can I get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the best way to go is Michigan. So spell out the whole state, and then SBDC for Small Business Development Center, michigansbdc.org. All of our one-on-one consulting is free. We're currently funded. And so we get half our money from the federal government, and the other half is local. And so all we need is your name, address, phone number, and we'll get you assigned to a consultant.
Cool. Well, thank you, Karlie. So that is some quick information on Michigan SBDC, but more importantly, we have Karlie on That's What She Said. So we are going to take a quick break. Come on back so we can dive a little bit deeper. And Karlie is absolutely hilarious. So come on back, and we will wrap up the conversation with Karlie Robinson.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the second half of this episode with Karlie Robinson on That's What She Said. In the last half, she shared a lot about her career journey and how, taking just a chaotic leap of faith when things are just layered on top of you can be a lot. It's something heavy to carry. And we actually shared a little bit at the end about methods of religion. And you spoke about this method,
the Buddhists call it the middle way.
Okay. And so what other parts of your life have been taken from your husband and his religious beliefs? Because this is really interesting to me. We take inspiration from everyone, and we take empowerment from everyone. But this is something that you originally didn't grow up knowing.
No, I didn't. Even had a stint at Catholic school for a while. But what I've really learned is, like, at this age, so I'm currently 49 years old, I wouldn't call myself a subscriber to any one philosophy, but I've always had kind of a, well, how can a million Hindus be wrong? And how can a million, this group of people be wrong? And what I found is that everyone has their own set of truths. And it's not necessarily my place to go, oh my gosh, you're wrong. And so part of that is just, and again, I think that's just who I am as a person, is just like, maybe I don't have all the answers. I have pretty good trust in who I am, and that my thought processes are sound most of the time. But there's also these points where I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to need an outside opinion on this. But one of the things that, again, my husband was a Buddhist monk for a while. He was a Thai forest tradition Buddhist monk. And so there's like there are some things that are very religious, like what happens after you die. But the way I look at the Buddhist stuff that, like, my husband taught me over the years was that, like, oh, the Buddha was like the first psychologist. Okay, cool. And so the major tenets are things like they call it the Four Noble Truths. And the modern translation to that would be, life sucks when you're being stupid. And then the word karma is not necessarily some sort of cosmic luck or judicial system. It means outcome. So if life sucks when you're being stupid and your karma is that you had an outcome, well, then the next step from that is every decision and action has an outcome, including the decision not to decide. And so those are kind of the pieces that are kind of now core to my personality of, do you really want to do that? Well, what are my outcome choices? Am I okay with these outcomes? Do I want to drive this forward? But I realize that everything I do is kind of that old, a butterfly flapped its wings and now there's a hurricane somewhere kind of thing. And so it's a lot of just small efforts that can turn into really big, outcomes later on. And so am I looking for positive outcomes? Am I looking for negative outcomes? And how do I even define positive and negative? Because some things that look like they would really stink, like who wants to go get a master's degree? That's a lot of homework. I did it anyway because there were probably going to be some decent outcomes afterward. So that's kind of how I center myself.
So you're saying like looking at the cause and effect, but looking at the effect first before making the initial decision. And then you said, which was really interesting, of even not making a decision is making a decision.
Yeah, you've decided not to decide, and that also has an outcome.
Do you think women do that? They tend to just, it'll work out. I'm not going to make a decision.
I think it's not even just women. I think it's just a humanity kind of thing as well. And I also think some of it has to do with even just how you were grown up, like how you grew up and what phrases you heard. Like one of the phrases that drives me nuts is, "It is what it is." Maybe you had a little more control over this than you thought you did. And you are just pushing this off because you don't want to take responsibility for things. And again, we could get deep into like psychology. You could probably spend years in therapy figuring some of this stuff out. But a lot of it for me is really just, I made a decision. Am I okay with the outcomes? There could be good ones. There could be bad ones. Am I at least moving myself forward?
There it is, right there. Am I moving myself forward? So that's a question that essentially we should be asking ourselves. Is this going to move me forward? So what is a choice, a decision that you made where it's like, I know that the results may be good and the input might not equal the output, but I'm going to do it?
I think for me, most of those decisions are much smaller than that, though. I like to think that, so even if I've come to some point where I'm like, oh my gosh, that didn't work quite as how I would like it to have worked, I also understand like, oh, well, now I have new information and a chance to make another decision. And so let's steer this. So I think of my life more like, driving a car and just keeping it between the lanes rather than huge plans. I might have some stuff off into the future that looks like it would be maybe better. But even sometimes too, it's like, well, let's just figure out, maybe I don't want that. Don't necessarily know exactly what I want in the future, but I'm pretty sure that would stink. And so I try to make decisions that at least keep me away from the stuff that I know wouldn't benefit me.
That's interesting because I started out the conversation just with a sticky note that I had refound.
Yeah.
About, don't be mad. Don't be mad at the path that you're on. Why are we hating on this? It's taking us from A to B, right?
Yeah.
Has there ever been a point at any point that you went back and reflected on that decision was a bad one? Like, I don't know if that should have been the route that I took.
Usually in a way of what can I learn from this so that if I find myself with similar circumstances, that I know to pick something better for me or better for my family. It can really get deep into the philosophy of kind of things, but I also think too, like, okay, so there's going to be some people who would very quickly say that God has a plan for me. All right, well, God also gave you free will, and if they're leaving little clues along the way, are you picking up what he's putting down and making those decisions that move you where you need to be? So, yeah, I don't really find so maybe I don't go to church and I don't necessarily say I'm a card-carrying member of certain religion, even the Catholicism that I grew up in. But I'm also like, at its core, are people out here trying to do people stuff and make the best with what they've got.
I love that advice. So when it comes to, decision making, and we're going to just touch on this one more time. If we have a listener out there and she's just like, I don't know what to do, you're advising to look at the outcome.
Yeah.
Make sure that this is, something that's bringing goodness and fulfillment. And then to be able to be comfortable with shifting and asking questions and consulting along the way.
Yeah. You're very rarely very few decisions are completely permanent. So let's say you decide to move out of your house or apartment or whatever that living you might not get that place back, but you're going to have a place to live. So stop worrying so much about oh my gosh, this is all permanent. It's probably not as permanent. You're going to have a situation. It's probably going to be a little different than what you wanted or not the same as what you had, but you didn't really give anything up because you can decide. So even when folks are like, oh, I want to start a business. Well, okay. You could then decide after a certain amount of time that this business is not my cup of tea anymore and go back to getting a job. That's what I did. We ran On Desk for 12 years. And we also knew we're making CDs and DVDs, and anything technology is here for a good time, not a long time. And something was going to replace CDs. And now it's like the pocket computer I make phone calls on is a more powerful machine than what we started On Desk with. And so, it was just kind of it's like 2015. Do we want to reinvent this anymore? And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm happy that I landed in a place where I could scratch that entrepreneurial itch every day. Mm-hmm. So I'm one of those rare people that actually loves their job. There are days when I'm frustrated with it and I'm just going to need a minute. But for the most part, I am rip roaring and ready to go. And so when I'm busy and doing my stuff, I'm in a happy busy and not in a, oh my God, I gotta go to work busy.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference between being busy and being happy busy. But I want to kind of push on something that we touched on in the first portion. So we have Karlie Robinson with us. She works for Michigan SBDC. She's an entrepreneur, businesswoman, advising people honestly all over the Great Lakes Bay region and beyond for several years now. But let's go back to something that kind of hit home in our first segment. You had brought up your husband and having PTSD.
Yes.
And in my mind, and I've known Karlie for some time, when we always have conversations, I know that a portion of it is going to just be a little bit about your husband, because you two, I cannot think of one without the other most times when we're doing storytelling here. So can you share a little bit about that? Because I know we have women listening that we're in a similar boat to that.
Yeah. So part of the reason that he's always there is because, again, we've been married 27 years. So that's a long time. And I don't necessarily feel old enough to have 27 years with somebody, but I do. And I knew fully when we got married that Todd was a combat Marine. He was in Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield. He was the 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, and he was 7th man over the border when ground troops invaded Kuwait. There were some friendly fire incidents and a lot of other things that I knew about. But with a lot of even we want people to think about mental health as physical health as well. You can have a physical ailment that goes into remission and you're good for a while, and then something comes back and it's here again. That PTSD is no different from that. Mm-hmm. And PTSD has a lot of different, it's going to impact everybody differently. The common things are intrusive thoughts, also things like vigilance, so we're got to be very careful of our environment and make sure that nobody's sneaking up on us. But in my husband's case, it really came across as avoidance. We're going to avoid anything that's stressful. And the best that I can figure out is that Todd's remission ended with the pandemic. Because again, he was a nuclear, biological, and chemical defense specialist. And if you go back to the early days of the pandemic, before they knew that COVID could go airborne, they were telling you, it was oh, it's on your groceries or it's on your Amazon box for 72 hours. And I'm living with a guy who has military grade decontamination skills. Yeah. And so I think part of that just got him onto that slippery slope, and it just took a really long time. And there were days when I wasn't sure if I should just walk away and let him do the things he needs to do, or if I should keep fighting for him.
Yeah.
And it turned out that in our case, fighting for him was the way to go. But if somebody's like, hey, I had to let that go, I'm like, that was probably a good decision. Because not everybody is capable of dealing with, so again, married to this man since 1999, and he's lying straight to my face after 20 some years of marriage because I might be like, you told me you weren't smoking anymore. What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't smoke our entire marriage, but he got back on. And I had to say to him one day, I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you this with no sarcasm, but no one in their right mind chooses a nicotine addiction. What the heck, man?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, oh yeah, I quit. And I'm like, did you though?
Yeah. So during that time, you, like you said, you had to fight for this. You are the yin to the yang, right?
Yeah.
You two are a pair. And that's a big thing to say. And thank you for sharing. But who and what helped you get through that time?
There was a time then that it was his therapist, my therapist, and our therapist. So we were going like 3 days a week. So we had a separate person for couples therapy. We had the person I talked to every Tuesday. And even I was at work. I just scheduled it out. I would move to a more private area in our office suite and cry my eyes out and then and scene and try to get myself back together because somebody is coming in with their dream and I need to be there for them. And I can fall apart later. But right now, this is my job. I actually love doing this. So let me shake this off for a minute. Let's talk about what you need. It's probably going to help me feel better too, to get back to that place of normalcy. And then, there'd be other days. Like I was telling one of my student workers today that I didn't put the mascara on for this event until I came here because I got out of practice wearing it because I was crying all the time. And now I'm to the point where I'd be like, raccoon eyes, because I'm just not used to I'm used to not having it on anymore.
Yeah.
And so, so there's just so many little things that change in your life. But it was also to the point too, where it's almost like my parenting style too. I always used to tell people like, you just need to be like a little bit more stubborn than your 2-year-old. And then you can make things change. And so now I'm like, okay, I just need to be a little bit more stubborn than this 50-some-year-old guy who's got his own money and can go do things.
Yeah.
And I just have to
stubbornize him.
I just have to out stubborn him and just keep reminding him every day that, hey, that behavior, remember that stuff you taught me about life sucks when you're being stupid and your outcomes? Like I want you to get back there.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to stop pretending that you have a completely new life philosophy, because I married that guy, not this one. This one kind of stinks. And I need you to come back to me, or I need you to make some real decisions and either just let me go and get your and so there was just
together.
And so there were just a lot of days too where even it was things like, oh, you treat me like a child. I'm like, well, you're running around like a 14-year-old trying to get a hit off your vape pen in the boys' room. So yeah, sir, I am treating you like a child because you are acting like a 14-year-old.
So do you think during these moments, is it you taking off the mask or you putting on a mask?
I think it's just like two sides of the same coin almost. It's kind of like battle Karlie versus everyday Karlie. And I guess part of it is like, I am willing to go into battle for things that matter.
That's a deep love.
Yeah. And I'm going to ruin my mascara here, but yeah, it is. And it is so hard too, because sometimes you love somebody and you also hate them at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know he's in there, but his brain is not telling him what is true. And in the PTSD, there's a lot of trust issues and things too. So he really circled the wagons, but now his brain is not necessarily leading him where he needs to go. But the good news is we battled through that and he is doing so much better. We still have a few moments here and there, but for the most part, he's on disability. He'll never work again. But he's handling his days without like basically rolling up into a ball of I can't do anything guy.
What that is an amazing, like we said, an amazing act of love and kindness and a true partnership. That's also, and a word I love to use here, is an act of empowerment, right? So, what you learned through that process of being a wife to a man that has PTSD.
Yeah.
That is something that, like, whoa, where did this come from? But like you had said earlier, was now I'm learned from this experience and now I can share this advice here and there.
Yeah. And it's even things too, like one of the first things I had to learn too is, again, as the wife and the partner, it's like, oh, well, if you can't handle it, I'll handle it. And then it's getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm out of my league here. And we need a mental health professional because I am not qualified for this. And it's okay to be able to step back and say, this is where somebody else needs to come in and handle this piece. And it's not me giving up. It is me going like, you know what? This person has a master's degree and wants to do this and wants to talk with these people and is trained and like here, you need to go talk to her. And then if you need me to step in, I will be here. But
this is an amazing quality that you have. And I really commend you for this. You're having the ability to ask questions, right? You said when you launched your own business, you didn't know the answer. You asked questions. When you were going through medical things yourself and you had 2 little ones, you asked for help. You asked questions. And then here we are in our, more adult years, and things are flaring up. Being a wife of a man who has PTSD, you asked questions, you asked for help. And I think that that's really something to be commended, because people in general, but women in general, we're like, I got it, and I saw something the other day where a woman says, I'm in my I got it and I'll figure it out phase. And I think that's wonderful because, kudos to you. You can do this, but at the same time, you need to lean.
Yeah, but it's also like, okay, I can figure this out. But that also means, like, again, even if we tie that back to entrepreneurship, if I needed to make a few bucks, I could just go sell a few things out of my garage or my house or whatever that. But a true entrepreneur would figure out, what do you have available that can keep paying dividends, that can keep kind of moving stuff back into the system in a positive way. And so even when I'm out there asking questions, what I'm trying to do is really just, how can I take this information? How can I take this help? And even when we think about, like, what's the difference between helping and enabling? Yeah. For me, I'm helping you if you're better off when I'm not around. You've leveled up in some way. Enabling is that you don't do anything unless I am there to walk you through and hold your hand and smooth all the bumps in the road. And so even when I'm looking at, like, am I helping my husband or am I enabling behaviors? And sometimes I even have to take a step back and take my own first instinct and evaluate it for it again. Is this sucking for a reason, and is there something I can do about this?
I really like that last portion, and we're gonna have to, I don't know, make a part 2 because we're nearly out of time. What is one word that you would give to someone in the Great Lakes Bay region to just push them forward?
I think it would be believe.
Believe.
The answers are out there. I feel like it's very, very, like, 1990s sci-fi, like, the answer is out there, we believe. But it is really just understand that maybe if the information isn't here today, believe that you'll be able to find it. And that's the information that you can use that will get you out of this funk or move you to the next level or drive you forward.
I really like that advice. So believe is the piece of advice from Karlie Robinson. Thank you for tuning in. That was Karlie Robinson. And that's what she said.